My name is Sarah, and never in my wildest dreams did I think I would fall in love with the one man I had spent years despising. Love was supposed to be sweet, kind, effortless, but ours was nothing like that. Our story began in the heat of rivalry, drenched in sharp words, cold stares, and endless battles for power. Alexander Carter was my nemesis, the man who had made my professional life a war zone. We were on opposite sides of the battlefield, fighting to outdo each other, unwilling to surrender an inch. But love has a way of creeping in, even through the cracks of hatred, and I never saw it coming. We first crossed paths in the corporate world, each of us determined to outshine the other. He was the arrogant, ruthless CEO of a rival publishing company, and I was the ambitious editor-in-chief who refused to back down. Every deal, every project, every success was a challenge between us. Our interactions were always filled with tension, fire against fire, ego against ego. He was my greatest competitor, my most frustrating obstacle, and, ironically, the only person who truly understood me. I hated how he made my heart race, how his smirk lingered in my thoughts long after our meetings ended. Then, fate decided to weave our lives together in ways we couldn't control. Our companies faced unexpected challenges, forcing us into an unavoidable merger. Suddenly we weren't just enemies, we were partners. Working side by side was torture. Every conversation turned into a debate, every decision a battle. But somewhere between the late nights and the shared frustrations, I saw a side of him I had never noticed before. Behind his sharp wit and unshakable confidence was a man who carried the weight of responsibility, who built his empire from nothing, who had sacrificed more than he let on. And, against my better judgment, I began to see him differently. One rainy evening, after yet another argument that left both of us exhausted, I stormed out of the office, seeking solace in the cold air. I barely noticed him following me until he spoke. "Running away won't solve anything, Sarah," he said, his voice softer than I had ever heard it. I turned to him, ready to snap, but the look in his eyes stopped me. There was no malice, no arrogance, just something raw and unguarded. "I'm running," I whispered, though it felt like a lie. I had spent so long fighting him that I had ignored what my heart had been screaming for months. We stood there in the rain, the world around us fading into a blur, and in that moment I saw him not as my enemy, but as a man who challenged me, who understood me, who saw parts of me no one else did. That night changed everything. The tension between us transformed into something undeniable, something dangerous and thrilling. Our fights became charged with a different kind of energy. Our stolen glances lingered longer, and suddenly, every touch felt electric. I hated him, and yet I craved him. Falling for Alexander was terrifying. He was still the man who infuriated me, still the one who challenged me at every turn. But he was the one who made my pulse race, who saw the fire in me and never tried to put it out. And as much as I tried to fight it, love had already won. One night, as we worked, late on a critical project, the inevitable happened. He looked at me with an intensity that stole my breath, and before I could think, before I could stop myself, he pulled me close and kissed me. It was not a soft, gentle kiss. It was desperate, filled with all the emotions we had buried for so long. And in that instant I knew there was no turning back. Loving Alexander wasn't easy. We were both stubborn, both too used to being in control. We fought just as much as we loved, but that was what made it real. We were fire and fire, passion and chaos. The world doubted us, our friends couldn't believe it, that none of it mattered. Because when he looked at me, when he held me like I was his entire world, I knew that, despite everything, I had fallen completely, irrevocably, hopelessly. As I stood beside him, overlooking the city lights, he reached for my hand. "I never expected to love you, Sarah," he admitted. "But I can't imagine my life without you." Tears stung my eyes as I squeezed his hand. "I hated you once," I whispered, "and now I can't stop loving you." Sometimes, love doesn't come in the form of soft beginnings or easy paths. Sometimes, love is fierce, messy, and completely unexpected. But the best love stories, they are the ones that start where you least expect, them with the person you never thought you could love.